everybody, this is Gabrielle Bastien from Regeneration International, and this is the last day of the Global Symposium on Soil Organic Carbon. So we're here at the headquarters of the UNFAO in Rome, Italy. So we're here today with Dr. Joris de Vente, who is a tenured scientist at the Soil and Water Conservation Research Group and a member of the Science Policy Interface of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Dr. de Vente, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Dr. de Vente was the theme chair for theme number 2 here at the symposium, which was related to maintaining and or increasing soil organic carbon stocks in a way to mitigate and adapt to climate change, and also for land degradation neutrality. So we're really curious to hear your thoughts further to the conference, because in the last few days you've been attending a lot of presentations on the latest scientific findings about this and trying to synthesize all this. So from your perspective, what are some of the main takeaways from this event?
Well, thanks very much. I think it's not a very easy question to answer, but we do have certainly several main outcomes that are very relevant, because it has been a very intense and productive conference with many people very actively participating in this. And I think, one of the main messages and take-home messages probably is that yes, we can sequester carbon. We know how to do this. We know the technical requirements, the technical conditions, how we can establish get more carbon into our soils. So the technical aspects, they have certain scientific considerations that have to be taken into account in order to make it most effective and most workable, but we know how to do it. That brings me to the second challenge, probably, that's the social challenge. So how to establish it, really get things done on the ground. And that's maybe the step that we have to take right now. A lot is known about that, how we can do it. It relates also to financial aspects and incentivizing change on the ground, but that is probably where we really have to focus on right now.
Okay, very interesting points. So with regards to policy specifically, are there any recommendations that stemmed from the discussions as per actual ways to encourage soil organic carbon sequestration?
Well, with regard to policies, I think yes, multiple recommendations and at multiple levels. So incentivize change, and that means by multiple means as well. So both from a top-down and a bottom-up perspective. So you have to motivate people and let them see that there will be multiple direct benefits from sequestering carbon for climate mitigation, adaptation, and also in order to achieve land degradation neutrality. So those are important benefits, but they might seem abstract to many people. So we have to make it more tangible and have to make clear that getting more carbon in your soil will effectively have a short-term and a long-term benefit. And the short-term impact is especially important. So how to do that? Well, one of the short-term benefits could come, for example, through payment for ecosystem services schemes that could be put into place in order to motivate people to establish that change. That could be one of them. Another aspect is establishing multi-actor partnerships. So really from the bottom up and collaborate with people, look for effective, feasible solutions that can really be implemented on the ground and are not imposed from top down, and that will have much less acceptance. So I think those are important aspects of the policy part.
Okay, great, interesting points. Some of the challenges and concerns that have been raised is the saturation of soils, the saturation of soil organic carbon. So at which point does a soil become saturated, and in which situations is this less of a concern?
Well, that's a very technical question. So the saturation, that depends very much on soil physical properties, in fact, and also on the kind of organic material you have already present. So it is a concern, but it's a very scientific and technical concern in order to optimize and really get optimal benefits of certain measures under certain conditions. But I think that's not what we should be focusing about. Because, for example, in dry lands, which are by definition very poor in carbon, you will not have this problem. You will not reach the situation. So it's not really something that we have to stand and think too much about right now. Try to get as much carbon as possible into those poor soils, which are far below the saturation levels. And then you have additional ways like biochar that might even be implemented in the soil and not have this saturation problem. But so that's a really technical aspect.
Okay, so would you say that the biggest opportunity is to focus on soils that have very, very low soil organic carbon and really try to sequester as much in those as a
Well,
first effort.
Yes, so that's one. And the other aspect is maintain carbon where you have a lot of carbon.
Right.
So, there are many systems that have a lot of carbon, and we should make big effort that we don't lose it there. So it is increase where you can and maintain. That's the minimum thing we have to achieve, is maintain what you have. Because if you don't lose it, you don't have to recover it either.
So another interesting aspect is that in June, the UNCCD is expected to release the Land Degradation Neutrality Fund, which is the first fund of this kind coming from the private sector to try to address the land degradation. So I'm curious to hear, how do you think that this process, this symposium, will inform land degradation neutrality?
Well, very much so, because soil organic carbon is one of the main indicators for LDN, for achieving land degradation neutrality. So getting more carbon in your soil is crucial to achieving land degradation neutrality. And how to do that? That is by sustainable land management practices. So that's one of the ways. So restoration and sustainable land management practices. That will help you to get more carbon in your soil. So yes, that's fundamental to the LDN.
Great. And do you have any other thoughts now that the event has ended? What are your hopes finishing this event, and do you have any other comments with that regards?
Well, I think the hope is that's something I really noticed in here during the discussions, is that we have a lot of scientific knowledge. Put it into practice. There's a lot of uncertainty to some aspects of where it will be most effective and under which conditions and how, etc. But we should focus on really make a change, really get it done, implement it, because we know a lot about what you can do and how to make a change. So start working.
Thank you very much for this. This was Dr. Joris de Vente from the UNCCD Science and Policy Interface, and I am Gabrielle Bastien from Regeneration International at the closing day of the Global Symposium on Soil Organic Carbon. Thank you.